open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
And local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Hello, Kentuckiana. You're on Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson, with the Louisville Tea Party and the Kentucky Liberty Caucus. I assume that you're listening to us on 970 AM in the Louisville area, WGTK. We also have live streams online if you're able to if you have internet access, but you don't maybe have your radio on. And you can reach those by searching for Kentucky's Voice on either Facebook or YouTube. So there is a live stream going on right now that you can click over there. We then will archive our video and we will post clips. Those archive videos are usually located on that YouTube channel. You just click on videos. It usually takes a day or two to kind of transition those over to a long-term video. We also do a TV broadcast. A lot of people have Spectrum. If you have Spectrum, you want to go to WBNA. That's channel 21 on Spectrum. And that is rebroadcast usually at 12:30, 4 p.m., and 7 p.m. tonight. Check your TV guide. Sometimes the TV guide for 7 p.m. is actually wrong. They'll sometimes say that our show's on at 8 when it really is on at 7. So we would love for you to join us. Watch that on TV. I also want to give a plug. We are a listener-supported radio program, radio, TV, podcast. That has costs that are associated with it. So if you have a few extra bucks that you want to support in order to get conservative talk and opinion on in the Louisville area, which if you're listening to this show, I'm sure you agree we need more of, I would encourage you to go to kyvoice.org on your web browser. That's kyvoice.org. You can see a lot of links to some of those things that I just promoted on how you can reach the show, but there will also be a donate button in the upper right. A one-time contribution or even a monthly contribution would go a long way to keeping programming like this on your air, and we may even expand to other time slots if we can get that. Okay. Today's show, we are going to be focusing on Louisville area politics. We will have a ton of people on the show that are running for, they're all Republicans that are on the show. Most of them are running for an office in Louisville or in Oldham County. We do have some discussion of Oldham County at the very end of the show. So stick around. If you are in Oldham County, we will cover a lot of those races as well. So among the people that we have Brett Schultz, who is running for state representative. We have Lonnie Joseph, who will be running for Metro Council. In the second segment, we will have Donald Pay and Daniel Cobble, who are running for U.S. Congress in the 3rd District, which is almost all of Louisville. There's a little sliver of Louisville that is in the 2nd Congressional District, but it's pretty much all of Louisville. That's a seat that's currently occupied by Morgan McGarvey. So we will have 2 candidates on. We will have a 3rd candidate, I expect, next week. We have tried to book a woman named Maria Rodriguez. I also want to do some local promotion. Tomorrow night, there will be a candidate forum for at least 4 mayoral candidates. That will be tomorrow, Tuesday, May 12th. At 7 p.m. on WHAS TV. I tried I gave it a good effort. I could not get the full lineup of what 4 candidates are going to be on that. But if you're interested in the Louisville mayor's race, I encourage you to go there. That's tomorrow at 7 p.m. The Louisville Tea Party is also having their monthly meeting. That is going to be this Thursday at Roosters in Middletown. The address is 10,430, and that is on Shelbyville Road. So come on out. I know that Don Parkinson of the Jefferson County GOP is going to be speaking, as well as a slew of candidates that are too numerous for me to talk about. Can we quickly put up a graphic of your voting locations for Jefferson County? So as you can see, if you are watching this online, there are a lot of early voting locations in Louisville. On Election Day, there are actually 210, I believe, districts. So take a picture of this map, find us on YouTube, and you will be able to get a picture of all these voting locations. And there will be a link if you go to the Louisville Tea Party Facebook. Join us after the break.
kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. Again, I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Louisville Tea Party, as well as the Kentucky Liberty Caucus. We are joined today by, let's start off with Kentucky State Rep for District 35, Brett Schultz. That's Brett with only one T, yes, and that's Schultz with no C.
Right.
So Brett is running to primary. He's running in a primary, but he will be challenging an incumbent Democrat for his district, and his district represents most of the area west of the airport. So, Brett, let me just have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, and tell us a little bit about what district this is. Where is this in the city?
Well, 35, since the redistrict, it runs down Fern Valley Road, Outer Loop area, down by the zoo, and Audubon Park, down by Eastern Parkway. It's changed. And a little bit of my background. I used to race horses at like Louisville Downs, harness racing. And when Louisville Downs closed, it forced me to move outside of the state of Kentucky. And I landed in Florida, New York. I've raced pretty much in every harness horse district there is in the United States. And I've been a lifelong Louisvillian, except I took a hiatus when my career took me outside of the state. But my family originally moved here in 1938. They come from Austria, Germany. And the area we live in near Camp Taylor, we've been there for long periods of time. And the area means a lot to me because I've seen a lot of things happen since I was gone and come back. I've been back home now for about 7 years after I retired from horse racing. And I see a lot of issues that need to be addressed. And that's primarily one of the reasons I've jumped into the race.
All right. Now, if Brett looks familiar, if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, that's probably because you went to the state fair and went to the GOP booth at the state fair. Brett coordinates that, and he's a workhorse. He talked about being a jockey. He's also a workhorse. So, Brett, tell me a little bit about what motivated you to get into this race. What are the priorities that you want to talk about? And if you get elected to the state legislature, what key issues that affect Louisville are you going to try to address?
Well, I have two issues I'm concentrating on, but the most one with most experience and background is property taxes. And my racing throughout the United States, in Indiana in 2008, in my opinion, one of the best governors, Mitch Daniels. 2008, of course, obviously was a bad time through the economy, and they were trying to get slot machines at the racetrack. And what Mitch Daniels did, he worked out a really genius bill on getting it passed. Each racetrack had to pay $250 million to get a license to have slot machines at the racetrack, and that was strictly earmarked for property taxes. And at that particular time, it did wonders for everybody and helped the entire state of Indiana. But moving back to Kentucky, and here recently with the property tax increases, I have some very unique and good ideas based on years of experience throughout New Jersey and Ohio and Indiana racing that I think could really be a big factor for Kentucky's property tax issue.
All right. Now, I will say I am good friends with Brett. He gave me a Derby horse pick that unfortunately came in second. So always bet show. Okay. So, Brett, you were talking about maybe one or two other issues. I know you live in an area of Louisville that has an elevated risk of crime. Do you have any ideas that maybe you think might help address some of the crime in that area of the city?
Yeah, well, what I see, a lot of people they see the problem, they come up with solutions, but at the end of the day, you got to have funding. Yeah. And you can't continuously keep raising hardworking people's taxes to pay for these solutions and ideas that are really needed for Louisville with the police shortage.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
One thing about property taxes I'll touch on briefly. In 2001, state legislators thought it was appropriate to put a task force together to evaluate taxes on HHR. That's historical horse racing that's located on Poplar Level Road. And the task force in 21, I agreed with their findings that it generated $6.8 billion. And at that particular time, horse racing really needed to jumpstart. The revenue from HHR was needed. So at that particular time, taxation increase, I didn't think was appropriate. But fast forward, moving to 2026, HHR is on a path to bring in $13 billion, almost 100% increase from 2021. And I think there's some opportunity there for property tax relief and funding for numerous things that not just Louisville, but the Commonwealth needs. And in my opinion, I think another task force should be put together on a bipartisan basis to look at HHR to see if taxation should be increased, if there's some areas that should be re-examined.
Yeah.
And with the HHR, the dynamics of the increase of wagering, I think this is something that should be a constant look at. And if any taxation was increased, I think that money should be directly earmarked to property tax relief and help everybody across the Commonwealth.
Right. Okay. And this is the thing that we're going to see in a lot of these races at the state legislative level where we're challenging an incumbent Democrat. Your district may be a little bit leaning Democrat, but the reality is with 80% of the legislators in our General Assembly in Frankfort being Republican, if you want money to come to your district, you're not going to get that by doing the same old thing and having a Democrat. Very quickly, Brett, if we want to find out more about your campaign, where do we go to do that?
Yes, if you want to email me at any time, it's brettschultzforhouse@gmail.com. I get numerous emails daily. I respond same day. So if you want to reach out, talk to me independently about my ideas, I'll be glad to reach out and talk to you.
All right. Brett Schultz. There's only one T in that first name. There's no C in the second name. Find him on Facebook as well. All right. Our next guest is going to be Lonnie Joseph. If this name sounds familiar to you, that's because his nephew, I believe, is already on Metro Council for a different district. But Lonnie has been putting in so much leather work. That is, he's wearing the leather through the bottom of his shoes from all the walking and door knocking that he's doing. So, Lonnie Joseph, can you just tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I've grown up in manufacturing since I was a teenager. I started at 16, working a part-time job in a printing company. At 18, I was promoted to the production manager. With that being said, at 19, I bought my own house for the first time. So I've grown up, I'm a working class guy. I'm just like everybody in my district, the constituents that I'll serve. And I pinch pennies. My wife and I have a monthly budget, and we have to watch where we spend our money, how we spend our money. Yeah. And especially in today's world, that's very important.
Absolutely. Now, can you describe your district? This is Metro Council District 21. What areas of the city exactly? If they know they're in this neighborhood, how do they know that you're going to be the person on their ballot?
My district starts basically at Southern Parkway and Evelyn, runs all the way to Iroquois Park, takes a left, goes down to Palatka, which is in the Auburndale area, cuts over to Southside Drive, Wilder Park, Beachmont. Also, we've got Prestonia, Glenview, out in the Indian Trail area, and then it cuts over Poplar Level Road back up into Camp Taylor.
Okay. All right. Now, Tell me again, what is it? Because I know, Lonnie, we've had long discussions before. Tell me what motivated you really to run for this Metro Council position, and what issues with the city are you most focused on if you do get elected to this position?
I've grown up in the South End. I graduated from DuPont Manual High School. I've lived in the home where I currently live for over 30 years. My family's had it for 46. And I've just seen since I was a high schooler where I really didn't pay attention to politics till now where I really do. Crime is just rampantly growing and growing. Taylor Berry Boulevard area is the worst per capita in the city. They have more 911 calls than per capita in the city and the state of Kentucky. So I see that. My wife and I have had items stolen off our porch, and I don't like that. We've had a lady up the street that had medication, $10,000 worth of medication stolen right off her porch. Yeah. Somebody rode up on a bike and just took off with it. The economic growth, we're similar in size to Nashville, Indianapolis, and they're growing like crazy. My wife and I were there about a month ago in Nashville. The infrastructure's growing, business is growing. We're dancing. We'll take one step forward and two steps back. And nobody seems to feel that's an importance. Yeah. For the city of Louisville constituents, it's very important.
Right. Okay. Now, let me just kind of hone in on one thing that you were talking about there. One is the amount of funding, I think, that goes to your area of the city. I know that's been a concern. And another follow-up is when you're knocking doors, you've been telling me about how you don't feel represented by your current representative, like they never see this person until it's election time, and even then they're not really knocking doors. They just assume because they have a D next to their name they're going to win.
Yeah.
So tell me about addressing that, what you've been doing.
The South End, what I consider money, I call it love. The South End doesn't get any love.
Right.
The downtown area does, the West End does, and I'm fine with that. They need the love. But the South End does too. We're kind of the redheaded stepchild in the city of Louisville. The South End is the heart of Louisville. We have the airport, the Kentucky Fair and Exposition Center, the Ford plant. When you fly into Louisville, you hit right in the dead center of Louisville in the South End. Yeah. And also out knocking on doors, when I knock, I'm told I'm the only one knocking. Nobody came to their door. I asked them if they know who their council member is, and they said even during the last cycle election, they had no idea. Nobody came and knocked on them. They have no input, no information coming to them. They have no information as far as where to attend meetings that their council member will be. Okay. So they're very upset about that.
Okay. Now, if somebody wants to reach out and find out more about your campaign, maybe give to it, get in touch with you, how do they do that?
I have a website. You can go to LonnieJoseph.com. My email is Lonnie@LonnieJoseph.com. I try to make it simple.
Yeah.
And my phone number is 502-209-8859. If you'd like to reach out and contact me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, that's what I'm there for.
Yeah. And he's got it on his shirt, but I want to emphasize that's Lonnie, Lonnie, not a Y there. Yep. So Lonnie Joseph. You have a good chance of actually being able to vote for both of these gentlemen. I encourage you to join us after the break.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. This next segment, we're going to be talking about the U.S. congressional race that includes most of Louisville. There's a small sliver that's in District 2. This is District 3. Morgan McGarvey is the current occupant, and these are two Republican challengers to them. First, I want to go to Donald Pay. Can you introduce yourself and tell about your connection to the city?
Sure, and thanks for having me, Lance. I mean, this is good what you're doing with this show because it gets the information out to the voters, and really that's what matters. I was born in Louisville here, and at an early age, even in the back alley of my house, there were so much crime. There were shootings pretty much weekly, and it just got so unsafe to live there that my family and we moved out to Taylorsville, just away from the crime. And now that I've come back here, I see the same problems in Louisville that are still here 30 years later, and this is what I'm here to fix.
Yeah. All right. That's great. Now, this is a congressional race, so could you just give me maybe 2 or 3 priority things that you think should be a focus if you were to get elected to the seat? You're going to go into Congress, and obviously there's 435 people there, so I don't expect anyone to come in and be able to fix every problem. But what areas of focus would you have, and what are some possible solutions even maybe for your position if you get elected over eventually Morgan McGarvey?
Well, we're $39 trillion in debt, and we add over $1 trillion in interest every year. We are adding $7.5 billion every single day. We have a congressional problem of overspending and wasting the taxpayer dollars. I mean, it is theft out in broad daylight of the American taxpayer dollars. And so this is what I'm going to stand vehemently against, is the just blind thievery that we're seeing right now, because we're seeing jobs go away from America. We're seeing our community get worse. Housing is increasing, and it's just making it very hard to live. I can tell you my generation, close to 500,000 people in Louisville alone, can't even afford a home right now because of just the crazy rising costs. So in Congress, this is something I'm going to be fighting against, is the crazy reckless spending, the waste, fraud, and abuse, and actually bringing jobs back to America, and so that we can have that life again, that American dream. And that's what I'm passionate about.
Right. Now, we can take a little bit off of that. Are you generally in favor of these Trump tariffs? Do you think that they have actually promoted bringing some jobs back from overseas, or you think maybe that was misguided and we need to try some other approaches to get more business into the Louisville area?
Well, if we want businesses to come back into Louisville or America, we have to make it very incentivizing for them to come in. We have to have legislation in place that's going to make people want to come and invest, right? So I think that where tariffs are helpful is keeping us out of military conflicts.
Okay. Yeah.
So if we can use and leverage tariffs before having to get in and militarily send troops on the ground, I'd much rather see us use economic leverage over military leverage. And so I think that's where the tariffs really hold a lot of their power. But at the end of the day, we got to see Louisville come back, and that's going to happen because we see businesses move back in. Right now, businesses don't want to invest here, but it's going to take leaders who want to get businesses back in and lift up the economy again.
Right. All that's music to my ears. Now, if someone wants to contact you or they want to find out more about your campaign, obviously these are short segments, so we're not going to cover every policy that a person supports. Where do they go to find out more about your campaign and maybe contribute? Because I know these races are very expensive.
Yeah, you can go to donaldpay.com. Essentially everything's there, my social media, my platform. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me there. But that'd be the main place.
Okay, and that's Pay, P-A-Y. Are there any final thoughts, kind of a closing message on why, when they go into the booth, and I want to remind people there is early voting Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of this week, and then the election is next Tuesday. So what's your closing message to get people to the polls for you?
Well, we've seen about 20 years in Louisville of failed Democratic leadership, and when I talk to voters, nobody's happy with the crime. Nobody's happy with the lack of jobs and the ability to not even afford a home. And so if we want to get strong conservative leadership back into office, all the conservatives need to show up. This is a rallying cry. Make sure you go to the polls and you bring somebody with you.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, Donald. We have a second candidate for the same position. Again, this is running for the Republican that would be on the ballot in the fall against Morgan McGarvey, and that candidate is Daniel Cobble. So, Daniel Cobble, can you please tell us a little bit about your background and what your connection to the city is?
Well, I was born and raised in Louisville, and very close and connected to what's been going on. In the past years, my activist work has involved identifying the issues, writing them up with a recommendation for the solutions, and then distributing this work out into the community. And from that work, many Louisvillians are familiar with me. And during this election cycle that began in January, many of you are familiar with this flyer here that I've been distributing that lists the many critical issues that everyone is concerned about but being ignored by both party leaderships. And that's why I'm needed in Washington.
Okay. Well, pick a couple of those topics and let's dig a little bit into them. What do you regard as the most important, or maybe the top two most important things that you want to focus on that nobody's talking about?
Well, first, let me point out that I'm the one that earlier, a couple of months ago, that pointed out that how LG&E was running the smart meter scams that's running people's billing up, and they got LG&E to admit it and start refunding people's billing. And I'm showing people how the data centers are unlawful, and how we are the government and the courts are bypassing our opportunity and the information on the DeepSeek, China's DeepSeek AI that doesn't require the data centers, and that is open source, that doesn't require licensing. And I am showing people my work on the weak dollar, the problem of the weak dollar that is causing the transfer of wealth to Wall Street corporations, that is causing the bulk of our problems. The government shutdowns, the rising prices and tax hikes, the housing crisis, the closings of small businesses. These are all problems due to the weak dollar that is causing the transfer of wealth, and that is causing our taxes to go up. I am showing the community how we're caught in the circular debt trap that we're caught in, and until we stop this mechanism that's causing this circular debt trap, then our taxes will continue to rise.
Okay. Now, one thing that you mentioned there is data centers. I know that's a super hot topic right now with the data center being proposed on Campground Road. What are some of your thoughts on, like, maybe what regulations should be involved in data centers? How is it that we can stop what looks like that's inevitably going to go in there? Yeah.
Well, I'm showing the communities that the open AI data centers are not legally justified, and upon me making it to Washington, then this will be an issue to force into negotiations with our congressman, because the data centers, the open AI data centers, are not legally justified.
Okay.
One of the legal issues is that they are denying the opportunity to use China's DeepSeek AI that doesn't require the data centers and is open source, that doesn't require the cost of licensing. Okay.
Those are topics no one else is talking about. If people want to find out more about your campaign, where do they go?
The ProtectAmericaProject.org, and there's a hyphen between each of the words, and Daniel
All right.
Cobbles.
Join us after the break. Okay.
Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Louisville Tea Party, as well as the Kentucky Liberty Caucus. Today, we are talking about a Louisville area Republican politics, in particular, talking about the primary elections that are coming up. You can early in-person vote on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of this week, and then on Tuesday is Election Day. So I encourage everyone to get out and vote, be knowledgeable about candidates. The next candidate that we are going to have on is a Louisville mayor candidate by the name of Stephen Dattilo, and on the ballot he would appear as S.the D Dattilo. So can we bring him on? How you doing, Stephen?
Doing great today. Thank you for having me on again.
Okay. And so I hope our audio is loud enough. So, Stephen, tell us a little bit about your background. Just basically, what's your connection to the city? What do you do for work? Did you grow up in the city? And then what motivated you in order to run for mayor? Later on in our segment, we'll talk about some of your criticisms of the current mayor, but just like, kind of what was your motivation of even deciding to try to get into this race, and then what's your connection to the city?
Okay. Well, my motivation to get into the race was to see how it's played. I've been tracking the chessboard for about a decade or so intensely, and I've always enjoyed watching how stories unfold. I've got a good eye for causality. And then after a while, I would just start to piece together how things were eventually going to turn out. So now I'm trying to see if there's a way that I can affect the result of the way they turn out.
Right.
I believe that I've got a lot of good ideas that, if implemented, would work out as well for us as it's worked out for the others who have already gone through, tested, and proven successful.
Okay. And now, are you from Louisville originally? Like, how long have you lived here? Yeah. I
am born and raised South End.
Okay.
I came from the Okolona, Cooper Chapel, McNeely Lake area growing up. After my 20s, I moved out to the Beachmont area, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. All right. Well, let's dig into it a little bit. First, let's quickly talk about your name on the ballot. What is the meaning of the D there for if you want to vote for Stephen? It's the D Datillo on your ballot come Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Tuesday. What's the meaning of that?
Well, I mean, the name Datillo can be mispronounced and massacred in so many different ways. A lot of them embarrassing, probably shouldn't be mentioned on television, and others are references to Ninja Turtles or Renaissance artists, and just everything in between. So when they stumble through it over and over again, I say, hey, just call me D.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about what is obviously you're running for mayor, so you must have some significant objections to the current mayor. So what is it that's going wrong with the current state of Louisville? And if you want to merge this into my next follow-up would be, what do you want to do to fix it? That's fine. But just kind of what is going on with Louisville that you want to try to address? And then if you want, you can go ahead and just talk about what you think are good solutions for it. But I might save that for a second question if you don't do that.
Okay. So I think one of the most blatant things that everybody is seeing is that what we're being told and what we're experiencing on our way to work or to the grocery store is being two different realities altogether. So we're being told that violent crime is down and that the numbers are looking better. And I've heard some representatives say that the city is even safer than it was in 2018. And when I ask the people how they feel about these things, they quite literally go the other direction 85% of the time. And I agree with them. The books are allegedly and obviously, in my honest opinion, being cooked on the money side and the crime. I would like to instate a full audit in every direction. Give us the opportunity to show the public everything that we find. Talk to the most disgruntled employees and find out what got them disgruntled. And work out things from there with the auditing. The crime, I see that there's despotism. We don't have a lot of big blue collar jobs in the city. I would like to bring hemp textile manufacturing into the city to the point that it looks like some sort of early turn of the century boom. But we're going to keep it going because we can use it for infrastructure and maybe even create a substantial GDP for the city and maybe even push the state into making profit instead of being a $20 billion a year drain on the federal government. We can reduce the crime by reducing despotism, bringing in good jobs. We can reduce the crime by, quite frankly, reducing the repeat offenders by finding the judges that like to take the repeat offenders and let them repeat and offend. So we talk about how we can pull them out of power. Go ahead. Please.
No, those are good. I mean, obviously jobs and crime, those are, I think everyone in the city would agree. And they're obviously interlinked. If we don't get our crime down, we're not going to have businesses wanting to move here or people to start businesses here, and vice versa. If people don't have jobs, that only feeds into crime. So both of those feed into each other's. How about anything else? Maybe what about budgeting? Do you feel like the South End, which was where you're from, are they receiving enough financial support in order to develop projects in the South End relative to the rest of the city? Is that something that that you're concerned about?
Well, with the South End, like I said, I want to audit everything. I want to take a look at it per capita, per dollar, and find out how we can best make sure that we're bringing jobs, lots of textile, lots of factory, and blue collar potential. I want to bring back the nuclear family, the whole culture of holding together. There should be more incentive in the city, even if you need help to hold a family together instead of separating it, which is what we see being promoted in the welfare system, inadvertently, of course.
Okay. Now, there have been a couple of scandals that have plagued both the Metro Council and the mayor in recent years, one of which was basically signing an agreement with some real estate developers in order to try to avoid getting sued. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I'm sure that affordable housing is an issue that you're concerned with. A lot of people are struggling to either buy a home or even afford rent. at this point. Do you have any comment possibly on that being a weakness in the general election for Greenburgh? The lawsuits that are pending about developers and also not enough progress in providing affordable housing in the city.
Well, that's obviously going to look bad on them.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, the people are seeing the truth of the situation in front of their own eyes, and they're hearing what Greenburgh is saying around every corner.
Okay.
And it's not lining up for them. The numbers don't match, and everybody I've spoken to has seen it on the vast majority. His broken promises on affordable housing, people see the price of a one-bedroom apartment being $750, $800 plus in the middle of the South End, which is ridiculous. It even takes you out of the running for being able to afford to save to buy a home.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I think that's true. Now let's talk a little bit about your candidacy. What do you have in terms of leadership experience? What differentiates you from all the other? So for people who don't know, I think there were either 11 or 12 candidates initially. A few of them have dropped out. I know you're friends with Jeff Yoakum. He dropped out and recommended another candidate. So what is your background and how do you see this race playing out? And I want to remind our listeners that the mayoral race and these Metro Council races are now nonpartisan. So there will be no R or D next to the names on the ballot. You need to know who you want to vote for when you enter that booth. So just comment a bit about your leadership experience and what differentiates you from the other candidates that are running for this position.
Well, first off, there will be one D on the ballot for sure. That would be me, the nonpartisan one.
Right.
And my experience in leadership, I have developed so many people into good leaders. I have the ability to weed out corruption and waste and incompetence.
Yeah.
And get it moving in the right direction. Even when people are in need of training, I am familiar as how to fill the gaps that they need. Teams, projects, usually most likely ahead of time, they're done under budget and exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
Granted, this has all been mostly in the repair industry, but I've also, like I said, been in the entertainment industry. I'm familiar with how the workers in the entertainment industry strive off their tips and what the struggles are for people who live in a lifestyle like that. I'm also familiar with the construction industry and how we could do so much better by taking a look at the materials that we're using. I like to point out that we can reduce the cost on most of our building materials by 2%, saving 2 cents on every dollar while making them last multiple times longer.
All right. If somebody wants to find out more about your campaign, where do they go to do that? And right after this, I will tell all of our listeners where they actually can go to vote, the mechanics of how they actually would get in to vote for whoever in any of these races we've talked about and the many other ones that are happening in Jefferson County, how they do that. So just if someone wants to find out more about your campaign, where do they go to do that?
Absolutely.
Yep.
My webpage is www.dattilo, that's spelled DATTILO, 2026.com. And I have a public Facebook page. It started off as just being me, but now it's me with a blue check mark.
Okay.
I'm still not sure how I did it. I pushed a button somewhere and now I've got a blue check mark.
All right.
Other than that, let's see how this race goes. And I can guarantee that if I make it in the top two, if I show next Tuesday, it's going to be one hell of a show.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Producer, could you put up that graphic of the Jefferson County voting locations again? I want to emphasize this is where you can vote early. You would do that between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on either Thursday, Friday, or Saturday of this week. It's that close. Now, some of the classic locations that you can vote early are around again. Those include the Triple Crown Pavilion, Sun Valley Community Center, the Linden Elks Lodge over on Ormsby Avenue, So a lot of those are, but the fairground location is not closed. So I encourage you to go to the Jefferson County Clerk's website and find those locations.
Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Louisville Tea Party. I encourage you to go on Facebook and follow that Louisville Tea Party website for updates. We will be having a meeting of the Louisville Tea Party this Thursday at 6 p.m. at Roosters in Middletown. That's 10,430 Shelbyville Road. We will have a lot of candidates that you need to know about before you go in to vote. That will be the night of the first in-person early voting day in Jefferson County. Don Fitzpatrick, the chairman of the Jefferson County GOP, will be introducing a lot of those candidates. Okay, now if we are going to transition in this last segment to Oldham County. Oldham County is having the same elections, but they actually have slightly different election times, so I want to emphasize that and locations. So, producer, could we bring up that graphic? We have a graphic that demonstrates what time you can vote early and then on election day in Oldham County. So if you're following this, go to YouTube, search for Kentucky's Voice, go to this video, and you can look at this graphic. Importantly, for no excuse early voting, which is on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, you can do that at two locations, Crestwood Baptist Church, or in LaGrange, you can go to the John Black Community Center. Now, ironically, John Black is actually on the ballot. We'll talk about that later, and that's probably something we want to change in state law so we don't have a situation where someone is on the building that people are voting in for a race in which he's a candidate in. Nevertheless, on Thursday, that is open from those two locations are open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then on Saturday from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. On election day, it's basically the same locations that you traditionally vote. And so Oldham County High School, South Oldham Middle, I know those are very popular locations. Okay, so again, no matter what, show up to vote. If you're a Republican and you care about the future of this country and of this state and of your local community, it's a small investment of time to try to pick the best Republican candidate for those general elections, and in the case of the mayor and the Metro Council races in Jefferson County, there are no more Republican or Democrat on the ballot. So be informed, get in there, and actually participate and do your civic duty by voting. Now, for this segment, I'm bringing on Laura Ann O'Brien. She is an Oldham County resident, but she's much more than that. So first, let me just bring her on, producer. Hi, Laura.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing very well. So just tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into politics. We'll talk about some nuts and bolts and like how you've become a real political expert and someone who I trust to tell me a little bit about Oldham County politics when I can't follow everything that's going on.
Well, thank you so much. I don't know if I would say I'm an expert. I just try to do the research as much as I can into the candidates. I know that when I first moved here about 10 years ago, I just randomly picked names on a ballot. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know anything about them. Yeah. And I want to be informed now, and I want the community to be informed. Right. So I had gotten fired up in the community during the mask debates in 2021. I didn't want my kids having to wear a mask in schools. So I joined together with a group of other parents, and it kind of exploded from there. Yeah. One of the things we realized is that if we want to have more say-so in our school district, we have to elect good school board members.
That's right.
So my advocacy started with getting good school board members in place, and then it spiraled into all the other offices. And so since then, I realized that I have a passion for it. I have a passion for just really bringing in good people. So I'm trying to help as much as I can. And that's what I've been doing this year.
Okay. Now, let me go into some of your credentials and why I think Laura is quite authoritative on some of these races. First, she's a member of the Liberty Ladies Republican Club. Which is, there's actually an Oldham County Republican Women's Club and the Liberty Ladies Republican Club. The Liberty Ladies actually represent women from all over the state, but they are based in Oldham County. I believe that Laura Ann is a board member or a committee chair on that. I'll let her talk about that just before I get. Let me talk about one other thing. She's also been very involved in state legislative issues. In particular, she's very concerned with open records law. And so among those, she has testified before the General Assembly about restrictions that would reduce the ability of regular citizens to find out what their government is doing. She's testified against restrictions on that so that we keep an expansive open records law. And she's an expert in open records law. She actually did a lot of the background research that led to the exposure of the Fayette County public school system, basically wasting money through all kinds of credit card expenses. So talk about what that experience. I'm sure that would be somewhat surreal from someone who 10 years ago was not really involved in politics to now you're testifying before the General Assembly on open records laws.
Well, yeah. So at some point, I can't remember when it was, maybe 2022 or something, I was told by someone that we're allowed to request government records. Right. I had never heard of that before. I thought it was all private. Well, someone had said, well, if you want to know what's going on, you're allowed to request things through open records request laws.
Yeah.
So I had started doing that, just looking for different records regarding education. Well, through that, I started realizing that there is a huge power for the citizenry with the open records law.
That's right.
We are essentially, all records should be open to the people, except for falling under a few exceptions. And I'm fine with the exceptions. Yeah. So I started asking for credit card records about a year and a half ago, because I found out that our school districts have credit cards that they go a little crazy with. Yeah. So I had asked for Fayette County's credit card records, and it was absolutely shocking. Yeah. They had over 100 people with credit card access, and they spent anywhere between $300,000 and $500,000 a year on them.
Okay.
And so I had sent those to a few different people, and it kind of exploded from there.
Okay. And it actually resulted in some legislation getting filed that I don't think it all got through this session, but I expect it will soon. So, so Laura Ann, and one of the functions that the Liberty Ladies Republican Club has served is to send out questionnaires to local candidates. And so Laura has basically poured through those things. She's read them, and I just in all honesty, it was too much for me. I couldn't get through every single race. I think Laura's been through every single race, reading those, assessing those. So let me get a little bit into these Oldham County races. Now, for Jefferson County, you've heard some of the rumblings of what's been going on in Oldham County. The most important race is for Judge Executive. This is the equivalent of Louisville Mayor, but for all the counties, almost every county, they have a Judge Executive that's the equivalent of the Louisville Mayor for their county. And the current Judge Executive is retiring. His name was David Vogel. He's been in that position for more than a decade. I'm not sure exactly how long, but everyone associates him with that position at this point. However, there have been multiple scandals recently, mostly relating to data center and not having public transparency or accountability. So tell me a little bit about who's running to fill that seat, in particular the Republican primary for that.
Well, so let me just follow up with you really quick about the candidate questionnaires.
Yeah.
So Liberty Ladies had sent out questionnaires to any candidate who would take it, whether it's Democrat, Republican, we just sent them out. And they were all the same questions roughly to find out who the candidates are, to get to know them, and to find out what their vision is for Oldham County. So if you want a copy of those, the Liberty Ladies website is currently under construction. So we have another group that posted them, and you can go to ryvoc.net. That's Raise Your Voice Oldham County.net or Raise Your Voice Kentucky.net. And we have all the candidate profiles on there for everyone to read.
Okay.
And so I would say if you're interested in the Judge Executive race, read through their profiles.
Okay. They're
really extensive. We've got 5 running, which is phenomenal that many people are excited to run. So we've got Tom Sheffer, Laura Tapp, Chris Hounds, John Black, and Rob Houchins.
Okay. Now, if someone, and this is kind of where I am, if I'm just going to be honest, if someone is basically just tired of the scandals, they didn't like the way that the data center was proposed, maybe they are even okay with the data center being in Oldham County, they just hated the way that the process went down. Who just summarize it for us, because a lot of people aren't going to do all the research that you've done. Who would you say is the most likely candidate to win of people that are in opposition to basically what's been going on for the last year or two?
Well, hands down, Rob Houchins. He has been in the fight since the beginning. He was the one who was very vocal in trying to stop the problem with it was just they were trying to cram something in without correct zoning regulations. Yeah. And he was a champion to fight against that. And he's been campaigning ever since. I really like Rob because of his vision for Oldham County. Okay. He supports smart development instead of just haphazard throwing everything together and cramming things where they don't belong. Right. So in my opinion, I feel like he's the front runner. He's doing a fantastic job, and I really believe he would be the best for Oldham County.
Yeah. And I'll just say I actually know all 5 of these people. I think several of them are fantastic people. Maybe all of them. I just don't know them as well. But you think that basically consolidating the vote around Rob Houchins is kind of what's happening behind the scenes. And if there's opposition to the way that things have worked over the last year or two, that Rob Houchins is where most people are going to wind up voting.
Well, I hope so. He's done a fantastic job campaigning and letting the voters know what his plans are for Oldham County. Okay. As I mentioned, I am really appreciative that so many people have decided to run. But I think he's the front runner in all of it, just with the way that he's presented himself, the way he's put out his vision and fought for Oldham County already. Yeah. Okay. If somebody's already fighting for Oldham County, they'll continue to fight for Oldham County.
Now, if someone has the same perspective, what are some of the magistrate races? Just tell me who you think the most important magistrate races are, and which ones of those do you think really we need to flip?
Well, just as a note on the RYVOC website, you can also see all of the endorsements on there. I live in District 2, so I'm supporting Randy McGraw. I think he would do a fantastic job. Raymer, Doug Lawley, Stephanie Hawkins. There's some good people on there that are running that I hope get in.
Okay, give me those names again.
And actually, Randy Powell for District 1, Randy McGraw for District 2, Clayton Rayner for District 5, Stephanie Hawkins, District 6, and
All right,
Lawley,
thank you.
District 7.
Oh.